Good morning. Welcome to the First Unitarian Church of Chicago online worship. I'm Reverend David Schwartz, co-minister here at First Unitarian, and it's a pleasure to be with you this morning, introducing one of our summer services. We are a Unitarian Universalist congregation. We're a community of youth and children and adults. We're a people of many beliefs and traditions, and what unites us, what binds us together, isn't a specific list of things that we believe, but values that we share, and a mission that we share to grow our souls and to serve and heal the world. Whether you're joining us online for the very first time this morning, or whether you've worshiped with us hundreds of times, you're welcome here. It's good to have you with us. And whether you believe in God all of the time, or some of the time, or none of the time, you're welcome here. No matter how much money's in your pocket, no matter if you have a PhD, a GED, or no degree, you belong here. We're people of many races, of many beliefs, of many genders, of many sexual orientations. All of you is sacred. All of you is welcome here. You belong here. Due to the coronavirus pandemic, we distance ourselves physically, but we still stay connected. Like and comment and share here on YouTube. Explore the library of videos on the channel. Follow the church on Facebook and sign up for the weekly emails to know what's going on. We have several small groups meeting by phone and Zoom, both for connection and for church business. To get involved, check your weekly email blast or email the church office for more information. Contact info's on the website. If the economic hardships of coronavirus are affecting you, the church is at your side. Terry or myself, we can refer you to resources. We can also offer one-time grants from the minister's discretionary fund to members and friends of the congregation. For more information, reach out to the church office to be in touch with me or with Terry. Throughout today's service, you can interact with one another in the comments section. Log into your Google account or create a YouTube account to leave comments, reactions, and share prayer requests a little later in the service. This summer, we are delighted to partner with ministers from around Chicago and beyond as guest preachers. And it's my pleasure to have this week's guest introduce themselves.
Good morning. My name is Chip Roush. I bring you greetings from the First Unitarian Church of South Bend. I'm grateful to Reverends Terry and David for inviting me. It's been a minute since I spoke at First Unitarian of Chicago. It is good to be with you today. Our opening words are excerpted from Beginners by Denis Levertov. Not yet, not yet. There is too much broken that must be mended, too much hurt we have done to each other that cannot yet be forgiven. We have only begun to know the power that is in us if we would join our solitudes in the communion of struggle. So much is unfolding that must complete its gesture. So much is in bud. Today and every day, may we be more aware of the spirit of life budding, blossoming, and evolving through us. So may we be. If you want to get your home chalice out, we can all light them together. We light our chalices this morning as beacons of hope, signs of our continuing quest for truth, goodness, and beauty. May our reason and our passion be likewise kindled, that our very lives become beacons to all people.
I invite you now to join in the reciting of our covenant. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. I invite you now to greet one another warmly in the chat box of friendship.
Good morning. We will now enter a time of prayer and meditation. I invite you to be present to this moment. Move your body in a way that feels supportive. If you are comfortable doing so, I invite you to close your eyes with me. Take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. Keep breathing in and out. Take this time to focus on your breathing. Notice how your chest rises and falls. Now imagine yourself in a woods, and you are moving down a path. You hear birds chirping in the trees. You feel a breeze touch your cheek as the tree branches move. You continue on, following the path through the trees. Eventually, the path begins to lead you to the edge of the woods. And now there is a small beach and a lake before you. You step out onto the sand and take a seat. The lake is still, reflecting the blue of the sky. You watch the water for a while. Take in the stillness. Breathing in and breathing out. It's time to return now. You stand up and return to the path that you came from. You walk back into the woods. Notice your breath again. And when you are ready, open your eyes. In this church, we hold each other in love and prayer. We dedicate this time in our service to naming what is on our heart. I invite you now to type into our public chat box any prayers you wish to be held by this community.
Loosen, loosen, baby. You don't have to carry the weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Let go, let go, let go. Loosen, loosen, baby. You don't have to carry the weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Let go, let go, let go. Holy breath and holy name. Will you ease this pain? Holy breath and holy name. Will you ease this pain? Loosen, loosen, baby, and you don't have to carry the weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Let go, let go, let go. Loosen, loosen, baby, and you don't have to carry the weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Let go, let go, let go. Loosen, loosen, baby, and you don't have to carry the weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Let go, let go, let go. Loosen, loosen, baby, and you don't have to carry the weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Let go, let go, let go. Loosen, loosen, baby, and you don't have to carry the weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Let go, let go, let go. The weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Let go, let go, let go. The weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Let go, let go, let go. The weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Let go, let go, let go.
Hello again. Leslie Takahashi was born in New Jersey in 1962. She serves the Mount Diablo UU Church in Walnut Creek, California, and is the chair of our UUA's Commission on Institutional Change. This is excerpted from a Facebook post she made on May 6th, 2020. I am increasingly struck by the lack of public mourning. My expression, every life is hope incarnate. Every human life is a possibility awaiting fulfillment. Every person is the complexity that defies metaphor. Every life is precious, and none should pass unnoticed. They will tell you that your value lies in buying and in spending. Breathe into the truth. Your currency is in your heartbeat and the silly twist at the corner of your smile and your passion for sunrises. They will tell you that you cannot exist without freedom of consumption. Breathe into the truth. We measure our lives not in human doing, rather in human being. Each life is beyond containment, beyond price. Our worth is measured in possibility. So may we be. And now for some awkward Zoom interactivity. How many of us have heard the story of the Tower of Babel? How many heard that God dispersed the humans and changed our language because we were too prideful? That's what I was taught as a child. And at that point in my life, it made sense to me. I sometimes got in trouble for being too proud. Why wouldn't our human ancestors? Since then, I have learned other interpretations of this story with more progressive and/or more nuanced understandings of our human condition. That's one of the reasons why it's important to study Bible stories. These stories are an important part of the ideological DNA of our culture. Whether or not we believe in a God, this is a conversation about humans and humane values that we've been engaged in for thousands of years. Biblical literacy helps us to understand the conversation more fully. We get a sense of how the ideas have evolved over at least 100 generations of Western history. And we can notice when those stories are being skewed or misinterpreted by our current conversation partners. For example, the idea that the Tower of Babel story includes an angry God punishing humans for their hubris, dispersing them across the earth because of their pride at building a big city and a tall tower. That's a very specific point of view about the nature of God, the nature of human beings, and the relationship between them. One might even think that the people who told the story that way had an agenda of their own. They were trying to keep the peasants meek and in their place, especially since that interpretation is not supported by the actual text. Words like pride and hubris are simply not in the original story in the 11th chapter of Bereshit, or as Christians know it, the book of Genesis. One of the many benefits of attending Meadville Lombard Theological School is the ability to take classes from a dozen other seminaries and from the University of Chicago Divinity School. My Hebrew Bible professor at the Div School, the late Tikva Freimer-Kinsky, when she read from the original Hebrew, translating on the fly, she pointed out the story does not say God is angry, and it never implies the people were punished for their pride. Freimer-Kinsky taught that the Tower of Babel was a test, and that we humans passed God's test. We demonstrated that we were smart enough to do significant architectural engineering and savvy enough to communicate, cooperate, and delegate in an effective manner. God had always planned for humans to grow in intelligence and then spread out over the world. Once we had built most of a giant tower, we had demonstrated our proficiency and could level up to the next challenge facing us. What might our society be like if that were our common understanding of God, instead of the angry, punishing deity in the story I was taught? Just recently, I heard of another interpretation. A local rabbi related a midrash, an ancient commentary on the Hebrew scriptures, which explains the story of the Tower of Babel like this. When a worker would fall from the scaffolding around the tower, the other workers were not allowed to stop or to mourn their fallen comrade. They were forced to continue laboring. But when a brick fell from the tower and broke, then there was a work stoppage, and the waste of materials was called out and decried. According to this midrash, the moral of the story is to not value material goods over the value of human lives. Here again, we see a vision of the deity as angry, but it's anger based in compassion. This is the ancient Hebrew version of God telling us humans, I'm not angry, I'm just disappointed. Over 2,500 years ago, our spiritual ancestors wrote into their precious books of wisdom that we are called to love our human cousins more than we love material objects. For 100 generations or more, we've been using these stories to teach our children that there will always be those who value power and wealth and our higher values, our compassion and mercy. In our generation, our version of the Tower of Babel story might be told like this. We intelligent human beings have built a complex global economy with multiple levels of abstraction in which every day a towering pile of money gets traded, but we seem to care more about the rise and fall of abstract indices like the Dow Jones, the FTSE, or the Hang Seng, and less about the health and well-being of the workers who actually produce the goods being traded. As Leslie Takahashi wrote, our value does not lie in buying and in spending. Our life is beyond containment, beyond price. Our worth is measured in possibility. We hear news reports debating the merits of saving the economy from the effects of the pandemic, of opening the economy up, or saving human lives. This is a false distinction. We have to do both. We humans need our health, and we need jobs and stores and recreational activities. If we prioritize the economy opening things too rapidly with too little concern for the workers, then the whole thing will collapse as the pandemic crashes over us in waves. If we listen to our ancestral human wisdom and prioritize human lives, then we will develop a slow but strong and sustainable recovery which will benefit more of us. This is not a left-wing conspiracy dreamed up just this summer to make one particular leader look bad. It is one application of some of our oldest and most treasured wisdom. And these ancient biblical stories are so full of human wisdom that they can speak to multiple issues all at the same time. If bricks are not more important than workers in the original story, if the economy is not more important than the workers who are part of it, then buildings and products and concepts like orderly protest are not more important than the lives of our Black siblings and cousins. One of the more recent additions to this side of the conversation came from U.S. District Judge R. Brooke Jackson. In early June, Judge Jackson issued a restraining order preventing the Denver police from using chemical weapons or projectiles against peaceful protesters. He wrote, "If a store's windows must be broken to prevent a protester's facial bones from being broken or eye being permanently damaged, that is more than a fair trade. If a building must be graffitied to prevent the suppression of free speech, that is a fair trade." End quote. Judge Jackson said if high-ranking police leaders were eyewitnesses to extensive damage being done, then they could use tear gas or rubber bullets, but even then, the projectiles should be bounced off the ground and must not be aimed at a person's head, groin, or back. I welcome Judge Jackson's ruling, and based on human experience, we humans do not always follow all the rules. There are already guidelines that indicate how and when rubber bullets are to be used. And there are too many stories of people who lost limbs or eyes because of the over-exuberant use of rubber bullets by law enforcement officers. So please be careful out there. If you choose to join your solitude in the communion of struggle, then do take care of yourself and take care of those around you. As Assata Shakur wrote, "It is our duty to fight for our freedom. It is our duty to win. We must love each other and support each other. We have nothing to lose but our chains." What does it look like to love and support each other? In these days of COVID-19, it includes wearing face masks, even at open air public demonstrations, maintain social distance insofar as possible. And here is the harder part. If you are a white person going to a protest, here are 2 tweets explaining what our Black cousins are asking of us. Use your privilege to protect people who are actually at risk. De-escalate. Anger is justified, but do not center this around yourself. Being violent and trying to get arrested is the least helpful thing you can do. And if you are at these protests trying to be an ally, your jobs are 1, defer to the Black people leading the protest, 2, protect Black and brown people by being a human shield, 3, keep an eye on your skin folk, some of whom might be undercover cops or outside agitators. My role at a Black Lives Matter protest, as I understand it, is to do what the Black leaders tell me to do, including and especially to place my white body between their Black bodies and any violence being perpetrated by the police. If you need to read more and have discussions in order to learn and understand why this is so, that's fine. And it is insufficient in and of itself. White folks do not read about and discuss these issues only to become more educated and urbane. We do the reading and the talking so we can do the real work of protecting those on the margins with our white bodies. Because people are more precious than things. For 2,500 years, we've been teaching that lives are more valuable than buildings. Maybe this is the year when we finally demonstrate that. So may we be. Sometime this week, when we most need it, may we remember that lives are more precious than things, and may we take one more step toward the liberation of all. So may we be.
I want to extend sincere gratitude to the many hands who brought this worship service together. Colleagues, congregants, staff, musicians, those who manage our administration and finance so that we can pay the bills and keep worship services coming to you. There are many, many hands at many levels that create the church, that keep it vibrant, and that allow us to minister to one another and beyond our walls, in person, in worship, through service, social justice, and here in online worship. I ask that you consider giving to the church to continue our ministry. Everything here is fully self-supported by our members and friends, whether that's the electricity in the building, our Wi-Fi service, video editing software, or any of the other ministries and work of the church, whether that be mundane or spectacular, is all made possible by the generosity of our members and friends. I ask that you now give as generously as you are able, following the instructions on the screen. And may we, as the congregation and the church, be worthy of your gifts. Go forth in peace. Amen. And thank you.